Well, she wasn't sure. Yeah, I'm really happy that her mom did that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for helping Margaret. She did that. Yeah. And Graeme was she's getting letters like every single day because she's texting her all the time. So all of these things are happening. She's here. Oh my God. What's here? You know, James, guys like if you're coming up late, I think about Are you Mr. Gahan. I thought that would be too early.
Welcome to our third round of senior speeches for the class of 2022. We ask that you please silence your cell phone before the event to honor today's speakers. Our first speaker of the day is Margaret Milan. Margaret will be introduced by Ms. Lyons.
As one of the few members of Collegiate's first ever junior kindergarten class, Margaret is one of a small group of students who are the first to say they started attending Collegiate 13 years ago. So it's safe to say this senior speech has been a long time coming. I met Margaret 3 years ago as an energetic and often sassy member of my advisory group, and it didn't take me long to learn, as many of you know, Margaret has a love for horses. I've been told horse was one of her first words, and that she has been riding horses since she was about 4 years old. Over the past 14 years, she has had many accomplishments in her riding, including finishing in the top 10 in a professional event. However, it's not these very impressive accomplishments that I admire most about Margaret. It's what her horses have taught her and brought out in her that really stand out to me. When I started having children, I couldn't help but see my students through a different lens. In each student, I found myself starting to pick out the traits in them I would love most for my children to have. For Margaret, I hope my sons get her discipline and her drive. Margaret, you are one of the most hardworking and dependable students I have ever taught. And through our relationship, I have been able to see firsthand the amount of time and dedication you have put into your horse riding and your schoolwork. I know that whatever you decide to do with your life, that you will succeed, because I know how hard you will work and how hard you will work to make it happen. You're also a bit feisty and stubborn. That'll help too. I will end by letting you all know that Margaret has made me promise multiple times that I would make sure to hug her at the end of this introduction and not leave her awkwardly walking to the podium. So without further ado, I would like to introduce your next speaker, Margaret Milan.
I've come to the realization that grief sucks. Grief is hard because you never know when you'll have a bad day, cry out of nowhere, or snap at someone you love because you're grieving. The country band Diamond Rio once sang, "Leave me wishing still for one more day with you." In the last 2 years, I have lost 4 beloved family members. My heart aches without them every day. My Aunt Kathy was one of the kindest people that I've ever met. She was a preschool teacher and worked to help the poor with the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. She was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer my freshman year. Pancreatic cancer is one where it's really rare for anyone to recover and survive. I spent my birthday weekend sophomore year in the hospital in Dallas saying goodbye. I sat in the hospital room with her, knowing the end was near, and it was difficult to make eye contact because I didn't want to see her so sick. I hugged her goodbye and immediately walked away. My parents instructed me not to let her see me crying. Later that night, my cousin Michael held me while I cried. He told me that everything would be okay. Everything, however, has not been okay. She ended up passing on November 25th of 2019. The death of my aunt was shortly followed after by the death of my uncle, John, on February 13th of 2020. My Uncle John's death was out of the blue. He was gardening in his yard in Hawaii when he fell to the ground and died of a heart attack. Uncle John was one of the family members who never missed a birthday. My last conversation with him was via text on my 16th birthday. We talked about Kathy, about how difficult it was to see her so sick, and he told me to come visit him in Hawaii again soon. I wish that I still had the chance. My parents informed me about John's death after one of my horse shows when I was down in Florida. My heart broke as they held me in their arms while I cried, wishing that I could talk to him one more time and say goodbye. On November 12th of 2020, my 17th birthday, my grandpa passed away. Graeme meant more to me than I could ever explain. Graeme took me out on his boat, the Bomber, and always spent time with me. I recall my mom telling me that Graeme had told my grandma that he was keeping the boat because I loved going out on it so much. Everybody else in the family had been telling him to get rid of it for years. Graham's death was not a surprise. He was 83 years old. He had been going downhill, but we all had hoped that he would get better. After being told he could be moved out of the rehab facility and taken back home, his COVID test came back positive. All of our hearts dropped. Even with the best medical care, his body was too weak to survive. He passed the morning of my birthday. The family gathered that night, partly to celebrate my birthday, but mostly just to be together after Graham's loss. Even up to the end, Graham's had always asked me about the horses. Graham's is now buried at Caveville Cemetery, and I drive his old truck over there every day to see him, bring him flowers, talk to him, and bring him his favorites, a Mountain Dew and Almond Joy. My grandma Graeme used to say that bad things would happen in threes. That was true until just about 2 weeks ago. My Uncle Rob was never in the best health. He was battling diabetes and was lucky enough to have received my dad's donor kidney after going into kidney failure, and then onto dialysis when I was in lower school. We all knew the time with the new kidney would not last forever, but we all hoped we could keep our kind and loving Uncle Rob around for a very long time. Last summer, Rob was hospitalized for an infection in his leg. He soon recovered, at least we all thought, and was transferred back home to his house outside of Atlanta, Georgia. He was soon hospitalized again. He was found unconscious in his home, and his door had to be beaten down by the police to get him out. The prognosis was never clear. He had an infection and soon went septic. He was going into kidney failure again, and he was soon put back on dialysis. He too got COVID in the hospital. After being on a ventilator, he was never able to come off. The last message I sent Rob was a birthday message when he was in the hospital. I told him that I loved him, missed him, and was thinking about him, and of course I told him happy birthday. He responded with "love you," and that was the last thing he ever said. He passed on September 28th, just about 2 weeks ago. Loss has changed me. Coping with the hardest moments has brought me closer to my family. It seems as though losing 3 out of the 5 uncles on my dad's side and my grandpa has changed all of us. My cousins and I talk more regularly. My grandma and I have gotten a lot closer, and my parents and I have been able to cope with all of these losses together, and I know I can always go for them for support when I need it. I found myself holding dearly to my family during these past 2 years. Loss has made me realize that you have to live in the moment. You never know when someone will be gone. I constantly tell my friends and loved ones that I love them, with the fear that it could be the last time. If we're close, then you've definitely experienced this. Loss is something that I'll never comprehend. How someone can be here 1 minute and gone the next. As the Diamond Rio song says, leave me wishing still for one more day with you. I find myself wishing every day to see my aunt, uncles, and Grames again. With the loss of so many loved ones, I have felt regret, guilt, sadness, and all among a mass of other emotions that are really hard to grasp. I wish every day for one more phone call, text, or hug from any one of them. However, I have learned from all these losses. I now spend as much time as possible with my loved ones and always take a chance to tell them how much they need me. Dear John, Kathy, Gramps, and Rob, I love you. Thank you. I wish you were still here, but I know that you're watching over me. I try to make you guys proud in every decision I make. To all of you, savor every moment with your loved ones. No amount of time will ever be enough.
Our second speaker today is Julia Mcguire. Julia will be introduced by her youth minister, Karen Elvsted.
You could accurately say that Jules Mcguire is a gifted musician, that she's an artist, a philosopher, a pioneer, a sister, a friend. But Jules is also something beyond the combination of her many beautiful skills, qualities, and passions. To me, as she knows, she is a living virtue, the virtue of courage. It takes courage to tell the truth when you know it will cost you something. It takes courage to be your real self in an inauthentic world. It takes courage to get back up when life throws you a sucker punch and say, try me again, I dare you. Jules is courageous, not because she wants or even needs to be, but because she has chosen to be so. She shows that life can be lived with deep integrity and proves that heroes are real. I know that she's my hero, and it is the highest honor to introduce her today.
Good morning. Would you rather have your soulmate be a villain or a hero? Do you want someone to choose you over the world or choose the world over you? Maybe if you're part of the selfless group in the human race, you'd want them to be a hero. But if you're like me, you'd want a villain that would choose you and you alone over the world. You want to feel more important than anyone else in the whole world to at least one person. I've never been picked first for anything. I've never been the first choice when choosing friends. Once the second choice, always the second choice. I've always been the one in the grass or behind everyone else to make space for the others. I've never been picked first by a captain to play kickball. I've never been picked first for an award, always an honorable mention. Since I started doing sports in 5th grade, I've always sat on the bench during all basketball and soccer seasons. I've always been the second choice, or third, or fourth. Honestly, if there was a movie about my life, I'd be a background character. I wasn't even born first. I'm the youngest. But you know what they say, the first pancake always comes out bad. Now, I may have lied a little. I have been chosen first by someone before. They're the most kind, stubborn, open-minded, tough, adventurous, resourceful, brave, and reliable person I know. But of all these things, they love the hardest. For those of you who know me, you know that my sister Milan, or as I call her, Lana Bug, is my favorite person and my built-in best friend. But let me explain why to those who are clueless in the audience. My sister Lana is my person. She's the best mix between who made you cry, just tell me their name, and oh my gosh, look at this stuffed animal, I'm just gonna buy it, I'm just gonna do it. She's the best blend of hardcore and soft that anyone could ever need from anyone. The first person to know I was so gay when I was just 6. My sister Lana loves harder than anyone I've ever met, and it's hurt even more when her love seems to be worthless to others. Lana was the first person I ever wanted to put my pride down for to say sorry. I realized that I never wanted her to be on the other end of my bad mood as a result of my bad day. She was always the cool sister who let me hang out with her emo friends when I was younger, too. One of the earliest memories in 4th grade was when I invited my whole class to my birthday party. I was so thrilled to make friends, as every little kid is, and as I was putting on my birthday regalia, Lana came into my room looking disappointed and said, "Guess who showed up?" No one. She sounded like a villain. Now I know it was just good old tough love, but then she handed me a stuffed animal, a frog with a miniature birthday hat on it, a gift in place of an apology that she didn't owe me. I was still upset, of course, but I still have that silly little frog and its miniature hat. And now it's one of the best birthday memories I have. She could have been anywhere else when no one came to my birthday party, but instead she chose me first when no one else would. If you've ever been to a soccer game, concert, or some other event of mine and heard, "Go Judy B. Jonas" in the background, even when I'm doing absolutely nothing other than existing, then just know you've been graced with the presence of my sister. She's the chaos to my calm. My sister is the first person, after my mom of course, that I can ever remember choosing me above everyone and anything else consistently.
She's the only one who I can confidently say understands me. We used to have this joke between us when we were younger that I knew her better than she knew herself, and vice versa. Ever since I was young, it was known to our family that we've always and always will be there for each other. We've always done absolutely everything together. We paint together, go on league target runs together, breathe together, feel together, watch shows together, grow as people together, go on stupidly long road trips together, and eat unhealthy amounts of ice cream together. I'm proud to say that my sister is my villain, the one who has chosen me time and time again consistently throughout my life. We are, sorry soccer girls, the true golden dream team, and if we wanted to, I truly believe we could take over the world together, which would be terrifying because we're both villains. So would you rather have your soulmate be a villain or a hero? Maybe you've been lucky in life to have been chosen first most of your life, so you're a little tired of it and feel like switching it up. But if you're like me, and the world has made you feel like the leftovers of the bunch, then I'd say find your villain, the one who doesn't care what the world says about you, who would drop anything to come support you when things go all wrong, the one who would drive a whole 6 hours from Tennessee to Kentucky just to see you when the people you thought cared most wouldn't even drive 15 minutes. The one who doesn't care how many times you say, don't give me a gift, and still does. The one who takes the time to get you to know you for you. Find someone who sees the bad parts, not just the good parts of you, and still decides you're good enough to love. Find your villain, the one who would choose you over the world. Heroes are overrated anyway. Thank you.
Our third and final speaker today is Hannah Clay Henry. Hannah will be introduced by Ms. Hinson.
Here are 20 things that Hannah loves. Nemo, not the movie, the horse. Her friends, Georgia. Acting, drawing, painting, playing the ukulele, listening to music, learning, mismatching socks, rock band, traveling, pencils, her headphones, dancing, trees, thinking outside the box, writing music, and outer space. If we are defined by our choices and we can clearly see what we have in our midst is a Renaissance person, one who has the capacity and the courage to explore and experience, someone who has a passion to cultivate a wide range of interests and who is an expert in several areas. When asked where she sees herself in 10 years, our speaker asserts that she sees herself performing on a stage in front of a bunch of people. HC, we are happy to support your dream today as you share on this stage at this moment with this bunch of people. I give you the creative, the unique, the rare, the singular Hannah Henry.
Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, a disease that causes people to slowly lose their memory, their basic ability to function, and essentially who they are. Usually, it affects people late in life, but my dad had an early onset version, only being diagnosed with it at age 63. When I was little, I always thought of it as Benjamin Button's disease. The longer I watched him, the more juvenile he seemed. First, he stopped going to work, then he stopped driving, and eventually, he got to the point where he couldn't be left alone. To me, he was more of a playmate than a parental figure, more of a friend than a father, more of a child than an adult, but I never forgot that he was my dad. It was rare that I was left alone with my dad, but one night when I was about 7, my mom had to go to the hospital to visit her father. Our house was boring. I missed my mom and my grandpa, and I wanted to see them. So I decided my dad and I should just walk to the hospital. After all, I'd gone before in the car, and it didn't seem that far away. After rallying him and grabbing some spare change, we set out on our journey to the hospital. I rode my bike, stylishly equipped with training wheels, of course, a few feet in front of my dad, who walked at an agonizingly slow pace and complained the entire time. It was a long walk down Cherokee Road, past Cave Hill Cemetery, and then onto the 7 lanes of Broadway. And throughout the trip, we'd run into numerous hiccups. The first was my dad complaining about the walk. He complained about his knees, he complained because it was cold, he complained about everything. We also ended up walking into the wrong building, thinking that it was Norton's Hospital. We got to a place where the sidewalk was closed, and we had to walk and ride in the street, and at one point, a very strange man tried to speak to us. I yelled at him. After 2 hours, 2.4 miles, and 14 intersections, we arrived at Norton Hospital with a cloud of fanfare and chaos in our wake. Though I didn't know it at the time, my mom returned to an empty house. It looked as if we'd vanished without a trace. My dad's peach Arnold Palmer was still sitting on the table, the TV was still on, and his cell phone was charging on the counter. She called a neighbor, hoping that my dad and I were over there visiting, but of course, the neighbor said that they hadn't seen me. Looking back, I can't imagine how scared she must have been feeling. Her only child and her husband had disappeared, and she was forced to realize that my dad could no longer watch over me, and I couldn't watch over him. Then the home phone began to ring. My mom returned to the hospital, and she put my bike in the trunk and told my dad, as he began to get in the front seat, to sit in the back with me. Timidly, I asked her if she was upset, to which she replied that she'd always told me not to leave the house without Daddy's cell phone. However, I thought ahead because I reached up to the front seat and showed her the quarters I'd gathered for the trip. Frustrated, because I clearly wasn't getting the point, she pointed out to me the danger of the situation. I know, I responded. There was one guy who asked me where I was going, and I said, none of your business. And I said it like that because I wanted him to know that I meant business so he would leave me alone. After a few minutes of silence, I spoke up again and said, it wasn't a good decision, was it? No, it wasn't, my mom replied. But now I wonder if she was thinking that it wasn't a good decision to leave me alone with my dad, too. As I think about this story, I draw from it many lessons. Remember to go when the light is green and stop when it is red. Always have a plan. If it gets derailed by going in the wrong building, reform the plan. If a stranger asks you where you're going, be sure to yell at them. It will make you look scary. Be persistent in your plans and dreams and never give up. My dad would want me to remember these things. Today would have been my dad's 76th birthday, and 2 years from now will mark the 10-year anniversary of his passing. In the decade that he's been gone, I have become an adult. I'm now a horseback rider, an actress, and a singer, but those are accomplishments that he'll never get to see. It's been really hard to acknowledge the fact that he won't be there to cheer me on at graduation. He will never get to walk me down the aisle, and he'll never get to watch me ride and sing. But my mom has. Every step of the way, she's been there. She's taken me to all my horse shows, she's attended all my rock band and vocal concerts, and she's even there sometimes when I don't want her to be. That night, 10 years ago, she thought she'd lost us both. But being the stubborn person I am, I didn't let that happen. Thank you.
What beautiful, brave speeches. What beautiful, brave people. Can we give them another round of applause? beautiful, brave people are dismissed. Have a great day.
Oh, I forgot the camera.
Yeah, that was awesome. Nice job.
No, and this is, I told my buddy, I was like, I hope we get State of Choice Farm after we get it. No, we didn't do it for that. We did it because I was like, yo, we're gonna call our bluff. I didn't know that you really watched them. And I did. No, and I did. You did. Yeah, but I was yeah, because it was interesting. You have to stand up for everybody else.
It was pretty emotional.
You have to stand up for everybody. But it was, she sent it to me last week. Yeah. Yeah, I would take it out. Thank you. So good to see you. Enjoy lunch. Are you on the lunch? Yeah.